And welcome on this Tuesday, December 15th. Yes, it's Tuesday and it is 8 p.m. Central Time, which means that yes, it is time for PLAR History and Geography. Again, my name is Jonathan. I am your teacher for this course. Again, on my screen, you see my course syllabus study guide with all my contact information. Feel free to radio and call in at 1-800-465-7144. That is 1-800-465-7144. Again, you can always call me at my office. My extension is 2221 here at Wausau and Silico. Again, you can always fax me your assignments. You can always email me your assignments at jho@nnec.on.ca. Again, you can always add me as a friend. I will accept your friend requests. And then if you don't want to be friends anymore at the end of this term, you can always delete me as a friend. Again, I have a YouTube channel also named Jeho Wasa. Again, you can always check out previous classes that you have missed or any content that you may be missing. Hello, Rosaline in Waterman. How are you today?
Good.
Good, excellent. Is there anyone else there in Waterman, or is it just you?
That's me.
Just you? Okay. Again, Rosaline, at any time, if you have any questions, just ask. Don't feel shy. Don't just hesitate. Just ask. If something doesn't make sense, just let me know, and I will do my best to rephrase it so that it does make sense. Okay?
Okay.
So today, class, yes, we are starting the second half, second portion of this course. Yes, we are starting the geography half. Okay, so for all you geographers out there, yes, we'll be starting the geography half today. History is now done. Okay, finished, done. No more history lesson. Okay, for this term. However, again, you can always go to my YouTube channel and check out all of our previous history classes that you have missed. Okay. Again, please continue to work on those history assignments, assignment 1 to 8, if you haven't already done so. Okay. So there's no need to rush if you're not done the history half. Okay. We are entering week 5 of our 9-week term class. So this is week 5. Okay. So today, class, our learning goal is that we will be looking at human geography and identifying what human geography is. I will also be explaining once again NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Okay, we'll be going into more depth about NAFTA, which we already covered from the history half. And we will be also looking at free trade and human rights. Okay, those are our goal for today. In terms of NAFTA, we'll be looking at the positive and the negative consequences, or the pros and cons of NAFTA. Okay, again, we'll be going into more details about that. Okay. Other than that, no other housekeeping items on for today. Again, if you're following along with your textbook, and you have your textbook in front of you, where you want to highlight, underline keywords, perhaps, I'm on page 26 of your textbook, where it says Lesson 4. Okay, yes, Lesson 1, 2, and 3 is now done. We are starting a brand new lesson. Lesson number 4. The geography half, yes, geography, has 2 lessons, lesson 4 and lesson 5. Okay? So again, the first half of the geography will be looking at a human geography. And then lesson 5 will be looking at physical geography. Okay? So just some schedule and guides as to what we will be looking at for next few weeks and for the rest of the term. Okay, and as promised, I will go over assignment 9. Assignment 9. Okay, hopefully Rosaline in Waterman, you have been receiving your marks. I did receive some of your assignments and I did mark them and I did give you feedback. I believe I gave it to your DEC, and I also gave it to you on Facebook as well. So hopefully you got a chance to see that. If you don't, let me know, and we can sort that out. All right, again, like I said, geography lesson 4, looking at human geography today. So I just want to point out that, especially in this half of the course, PLAR History and Geography, the geography half, there's a lot of definitions. Okay, so just keep that in mind. A lot of definitions, a lot of terms that you'll need to explain and identify. Okay, again, all of these definitions and terms are outlined in and stated in your textbook. Again, I will be using it on my slides. I have summarized all the key points on my slides. Again, I have also added some background content too, so just keep that in mind as well. Okay, but yes, our first definition or our term for today is, what is human geography? Yes, put a little star beside it, as you'll see it again. I'll want to underline it to identify that as key. Again, anything that I, underline or put a star beside, it's a pretty good indication that you'll see it again in your assignments. Okay, again, I'll try my best and I will stress all the key points, all the definitions that you'll see again on your assignments. Okay, so that there's no surprises. No surprises. Human geography. What is human geography? Again, like I said, I'm on page 26 at the very, very top of your textbook. Okay, so we'll be looking at human geography for our next couple of classes. So, human geography is looking at examining the human political and cultural branch of geography. Okay, when people think about geography, we're thinking about, countries, maps, etc. But in terms of human geography, we are expanding and looking at how that impacts human in terms of a political point of view. Okay, how does human political factors and laws impact humans around the world, and in terms of cultural branches as well? Human geography is also focused on how humans adapt themselves to the land and other people. So especially we're looking at, the space, places, space and place, people, and how all that link together. Okay, the land, the space. Okay, when I talk about land and space, I'm not talking about outer space. I'm talking about space, the land. Okay, or land that we live on. How does that impact people? Where do you live in the world? How is that land? How is that land formation impact us? Okay, are there flat land? Are there grasses? Are there soil? Are there cities? People, culture, political factors, influences? Okay, all this come together. Okay, cultural factors. Okay, how it connects with one another. Okay, space and places and people. Okay, people. Okay, people. So there are three main branches or factors that we're going to talk about in human geography for the next couple of classes. Okay, three main factors or areas of human geography. Okay, 1, economics, 2, urbanism, and 3, military. I will repeat. 1, economics, 2, urbanism, and 3, military. Okay, these are the three areas that we are going to focus on when looking at human geography. Okay, we'll go into more details and definition as to what these three main areas mean. Okay, so don't get overwhelmed just yet. Okay, but again, human geography is looking at how human political and cultural factors relate or interact with one another in terms of space, land, area, and how it impact and how human adapt to that particular area. Okay, so that's human geography in a little snapshot. Okay, questions so far in terms of human geography? Again, we are switching gears, moving away from looking at history. Again, however, there will be some overlap in some areas that we can, link and integrate in terms of the geography half as well. So let's continue. Let's continue. So remember how I talked about the three areas or factors of human geography? Well, we are going to get to the first one right now. Okay, I don't think we're going to finish all three areas today, but we're going to start with the first one, which is economics. Economics. Okay. Again, like I said, there's lots of definitions and terminologies, so again, don't feel overwhelmed. But again, you will need to know these definitions and terminologies for your assignments. Okay, especially in your textbook. A lot of the terminologies and definitions and key words are highlighted, are in bold, are underlined, or in capital letters, again, which identify that it's significant, and hopefully it's easy for you to find when going through your assignments. Okay, but again, if you have been following along to our lessons and been listening and have been participating, there should not be any difficulties whatsoever. Okay? Okay. Economic geography. Again, it's a little branch, a little area of human geography. So when we talk about economics, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, we're looking with the word with economics and what that means in terms of geography. So again, economic geography. Okay, I'm gonna put a star beside it. I'm gonna underline it. Almost forgot that. It is the study of a widely varying economic conditions across the earth. Okay, the study of widely varying economics conditions across the earth. Okay, factors may be. It is three factors. Okay, one, climate. Okay, so depending on where you live in Canada or in the world, impacts your economic geography. Okay, so again, depending on where you live, from which area, which territory, you may have different natural resources, agriculture, forestry, and productions compared to other people. So, for example, here in northern Ontario, the climate is often very, very cold, especially in the wintertime. So we have, for example, kind of short, warm summer and long, cold winter, which means that here in northern Ontario, you can good say that there's less agriculture. Okay, but we do have a lot of forestry as there's lots of little trees around here. So again, there's lots of factors. Okay, again, different areas, different cities may have more natural resources, which can be good for trading and selling back and forth. Okay, so climate is a factor when looking at economic geography. So where you live, what you can make, what you can produce, how you can sell it, and how you can gain money from it. Okay, geology, number two, another factor, geology. Okay, we're looking at landforms. Okay, some areas in Canada and around the world have different landforms. So, for example, again, Western Canada has lots of mountains. Okay, which is not ideal for farming and agriculture, so that impacts them. Okay, so depending on where you live in Canada or in the world, different landforms, okay, could be, flat land or forest, wetland. It can impact your economics geography as well. Again, in terms of what you can make, what you can produce, and how you can sell it in order to gain money. Okay, and factor number 3, or influence number 3, is social political factors. Again, political factors, in terms of your government, what people feel, what people like, different laws, different regulations, also impacts what you can make, what you can produce, and what you can sell. So there's a pattern starting to develop here. So again, economic geography is basically saying what we can make, what kind of materials, products we can make, produce, or sell, or gain goods or income from. So for example, developed countries, okay, when we're talking about developed countries, countries that are, well off. For example, Canada is an example of a developed country. United States is an example of a developed country. France, Britain, all those wealthy countries are examples of developed countries, which means that they often have good or developed economies and can often trade with other countries as well. Because we have money, we have items that people don't have, therefore people want our item, therefore we trade and we can sell in order to gain profit or income back. Okay, does that kind of make sense in terms of economic geography? Okay, it's all about not what we can make, what we can sell. Okay, that's all different factors come into play. Okay, again, different cultural backgrounds, just tons and tons. Okay, so that's economic geography. Economic geography. Again, are there questions at the moment that didn't make sense so far? Okay, so we're going to move on to our next term, or our next definition. I'm still on page 26 of your textbook. Again, I'm going to put a little star beside it to indicate that you'll see it again. So next term that you will need to identify in assignment 9 is a term called trade surplus. Trade surplus. Okay, so what trade surplus is and how it relates back to human geography and economic geography is that a trade surplus is when a country with more goods to export to another countries than goods to import. Okay, I'll say that again. Trade surplus is a country with more goods to export to another country than goods to import. Okay, so there's two key terms here that we need to kind of identify: import and export, and what they mean. Okay, so so import. Okay, so what that means, import, we are how do I explain this? Import, we are receiving or getting items. Okay, we're importing. Okay, so we're getting other materials and goods from other countries. Whereas export is an example of kind of the opposite, where we're giving or selling items or goods to other countries. Okay? So, a trade surplus means a country that has more items, goods, and materials to give away, to sell to other countries, than have goods coming in. Okay, so often a trade surplus country produces lots of goods, items, and materials to sell to other countries that are in need of items that they do not have. Which means that a trade surplus countries don't really need many other items. They are not really getting, okay, a lot of items, whereas we're selling a lot of goods to other countries. Okay, so importing, which means I'm the other arrows, we're getting. Okay, whereas exporting is going out. So we're selling, so they're going out. Okay. So again, a trade surplus. A trade surplus is when a country with more goods, items, materials, or whatever to export, to give away, to sell to another countries than have goods to import or to get. Okay, this is what a trade surplus means, or what a trade surplus is. Okay. Again, this is also in your textbook on page 26. It also explains the definition as well. Questions on trade surplus? Does that make sense? Okay, hopefully you can see that there's lots of definitions going on and what they mean. So no surprises here. So again, in your assignments that are to come, especially in assignment 9, you will see a lot of definitions. Okay, what does this term mean? Give some examples of this term. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, moving right along. We're going to move into our next learning goal, where we are going to talk about NAFTA. NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. Yes, we have talked about NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, a little bit in terms of previous classes in the history half. So we're going to talk about NAFTA again. Okay, covering some of the same content, but we will be also going to greater details in terms of identifying and providing details of the controversies / disputes since NAFTA. Okay, which means that we're going to talk about why NAFTA is not a good thing, or why people disagree or don't like NAFTA. Okay, we have talked about what NAFTA is and its goal and its purposes. I'm gonna go over that right now, and then we'll be, like I said, we'll be going over the controversies and the disputes of NAFTA. Okay, so NAFTA is, again, if you have remember and if you have recalled, is a free trade agreement that was signed on January 4th, 1994. I will repeat, it was signed on January 4th, 1994. I'll say it one more time. Signed on January 1st, 1994. Why am I saying it? Because you'll see it come up in one of your assignments. I'm doing my best to stress out key facts. So, again, if you have remembered, NAFTA is an agreement, not a law, it's just an agreement between Canada, United States, and Mexico. Okay, Canada, United States, and Mexico. Again, it is a free trade agreement between these three countries, where the goal is where these three countries, Canada, United States, and Mexico, can trade goods and items back and forth without paying taxes. Okay, without paying taxes, or removing as many tax as possible on goods. Okay, on items that we want to trade back and forth. Okay, that is the goal of NAFTA. That what NAFTA was signed. That was what the agreement was designed to do. Okay, again, NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement, signed on January 4th, 1994, between Canada, our neighbor United States, and their neighbor Mexico. Again, nothing new here. It is a free trade agreement where we want to trade goods back and forth without paying taxes or trying to eliminate all these barriers such as taxes as possible. Okay, again, nothing new here. We have talked about this before. This is what NAFTA is. So let's continue and look at other information about NAFTA that we have not seen before. So we're going to talk about the pros and the cons of NAFTA. Okay, the benefits and the detrimental effects or impact of NAFTA. Okay, the good and the bad. We are going to start off with the good because it's always good to start off with the positive, then look at the negative side. Okay, so yeah, so we talk about NAFTA, the benefits, why NAFTA is a good thing. Okay, so NAFTA, the positive, the pros. So again, NAFTA goal is to eliminate restriction on tariffs, other word known for taxes. Okay, so we want to eliminate items or taxes on items such as motor vehicles, automotive parts, computers, textiles, and agriculture. Okay, so we have talked about lots about NAFTA, how we don't want to pay taxes. These are just some examples that now countries such as Canada, United States, and Mexico can now trade motor vehicles, automotive parts, computers, textiles, and agricultures back and forth without paying taxes or eliminating or restricting any taxes on these items. Just for example, okay, NAFTA, with NAFTA in play, with this agreement, also protects property rights, trade rights, copyrights. Okay, again, property rights, trade rights, and copyrights. Okay, it protects that, which means that, for example, like a company name such as Apple, okay, cannot be renamed coming here to Canada. Okay, it protects that copyright. Okay, such as our Canadian Tim Hortons Coffee Company cannot be renamed something else when I move down to the States. Yes, there are some Tim Hortons in the States. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, it protects property rights, trade rights, and copyrights. Okay, so you can't just take a product here in Canada and sell it in a different name in those other countries. Okay, NAFTA protects that. Okay, NAFTA, another positive of benefits of NAFTA is its economic growth. Okay, by trading back and forth now, by getting all the goods, there's now economic growth. Yes, we are getting richer. We have now getting lots of money. So, for example, people in Mexico can now buy an iPhone, for example. Okay, economic growth. There are now more opportunities to buy and sell goods in order to make more money. Okay, and with NAFTA in play, it has increased the standard of living, because now we can get items that we can never get before, or now we can trade our items to countries that are in need, or such as Mexico or United States or in Canada, for example. Okay, so these are just some examples of the positive, the good side of NAFTA. Okay, again, it removes tax on items such as motor vehicles, automotive parts, computers, textiles, agriculture, protects property rights, trade goods, copyrights. There's now economic growth and increase in standard living. Okay, there will be a question about what are the benefits of NAFTA. Okay, what are the benefits of NAFTA? Okay, just keep that in mind. So that just some of the positive side. Your textbook does go into a lot of background information. It does provide lots of other examples. So again, please make sure you go to your textbook on page 27 and 28. Make sure you read your textbook, even though you have been listening to our lesson. The textbook does provide other great information as well. Okay? So again, that is the good side, the positive side. So now let's get to, you know it, the controversy, the negative side, and why NAFTA is seen as something negative in terms of some people, why people opposed it. Okay, controversies, controversies. Okay, why NAFTA bring controversies? This is on page 28, well, it starts on page 28 of your textbook. The bad side. Okay, controversy, what that means, often means something that people don't necessarily agree with. Some do, and some don't. Okay, it brings up arguments and disputes. That is what controversy means. Okay, otherwise can be seen as the bad side. That's what I like to call it. So I'll put a little star beside it. Underline controversy. Hint, hint. You will see a question on what are the controversy of NAFTA. Give some examples. Okay. So let's go over some controversies or disputes in terms of why NAFTA is not always or seen as a good thing. So Canada and the United States often oppose NAFTA. Okay, Canada and the United States often oppose NAFTA because Canada and the United States fear jobs would be moved to Mexico due to lower wages costs. Okay, so what that means is now we can have American and Canadian companies operating in Mexico, and now we can pay workers in Mexico at a cheaper rate. Okay, so now that's why Canada and the United States opposes. Fear that jobs will be lost here in Canada and the United States as jobs will be moved to Mexico as we can pay them cheaper at a lower wage to produce those items. Okay? Politicians, policy experts, economics, see Canada turn into a branch plant economy. Okay? Politician, policy experts, economists see Canada as a country's turn it into a branch plant economy. Branch plant. What does that mean? Is that often people see Canada following in the footsteps of American. Okay, where we will lose a lot of our companies and our businesses, where we'll see a lot of American companies emerging into Canada due to the stronger American dollar. Okay, so we do have a lot of American companies now here in Canada. Okay, so people often oppose this because now Canadian companies will be bankrupt, shut down, and close, and more American companies will be opening and seen here in Canada. Again, that could be seen as a positive, and it can also be seen as a negative or controversy as well. Okay. Farmers in Mexico opposed NAFTA because they had to pay a heavy agriculture subsidy. Okay, there's some detrimental non-economic impact on health and environment. Poverty in Mexico has risen, and wages has now dropped to 20% or by 20%. Okay, so yes, you can see that NAFTA has been positive, but it could also be negative as well. Mexico and the United States has seen an increase of illegal immigrants in their countries as well due to NAFTA, because people now jump in ships to move into other countries. Okay, so these are just some examples that I grabbed and pulled from your textbook that I wanted to highlight. Okay, there are more examples in your textbook that you are free to use, but these are just some examples that I have highlighted and used. Okay, so again, these are just some examples of controversies of NAFTA. There's one more controversy of NAFTA that I want to stress and that I want to point out. And that is something called Chapter 11. Okay, this is another controversy that was brought up as a result of NAFTA. Okay, this is on page 29 of your textbook, where it talks about what this term of Chapter 11 or bankruptcy means of NAFTA. So what Chapter 11 means, again, you can use this as an example of a controversy. Let's keep that in mind. Is that Chapter 11 states that or allows corporation, okay, companies and businesses, they allow them to sue the federal government if they feel a regulation or the government or a government decision has impacted or has affected their investment. Okay, again, Chapter 11 allows corporations and companies to sue the federal government if they feel some kind of law or some kind of regulation created by the government or a decision by the government that has impacted their investment. Okay, as a result of this Chapter 11 bankruptcy measure, the government is now scared to pass environmental regulations. For example, Methanex, which is like a drug company that is produced here in Canada, okay, sued the United States, claiming that California banned this substance that was found in the water system, which hurted their cells or their income coming in. Okay, so a Canadian company called Methanex, okay, sued the Americans, the United States, claiming that in California, the substance was banned because it was found in the water system. As a result, Methanex, this Canadian company, cannot sell their products in California. As a result, it hurt their sell or their increase in profit or making money. Okay, this is how Chapter 11 comes into play. Okay, again, a Canadian company sued the United States because it hurt their impact of the sales. There's other examples in your textbook that talks about how different companies in Canada and the United States, often have lost money due to businesses, due to the government creating and passing regulations. Okay, this is just one example how controversies can be stirred up and be created with NAFTA, Chapter 11. Okay, again, you can feel free to use Chapter 11 in terms of example of a controversy in your assignment. Okay, like I said, your textbook goes into more details, but we don't have time to go through all those examples. But again, make sure you go through your textbook and read the textbook and have a grasp and understanding on what some of these examples are. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next definition before we move on to the assignments. Human rights. Human rights. We have talked about the Bill of Rights and the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in Canada and the history portion. So we're going to touch upon what human rights or some examples of human rights are. Okay, these examples are in your textbook. Okay, again, more definitions, more examples. Okay, so human rights means that people have the right to freedom, earn a fair wage, move around in the country, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and protection from danger. Okay, a lot of similarities that can be seen in terms of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Okay, so human rights, these rights often promotes and reflects the same ideology. Okay, so for example, human rights means that people have the right to freedom, earn fair wages, okay, regardless if you're a male or female, or your gender, or your race, or your ethnicity. You're allowed to move around in the country. So if you're stuck here in Northern Ontario, you can always move to different province here in Canada if you want, for example. Freedom of speech, okay, to a certain extent. Freedom of religion, okay. Canada is a multicultural society with diverse backgrounds. So yes, we do have that right to believe and follow our own religion. And we do have the right to protection from danger. So yes, polices and forces are supposed to protect us. Okay, the government of many countries of the world violates human rights of citizens. Okay, so here in Canada, we're often lucky as we have all these human rights. So as a result, as citizens, and here in Canada, we often want to promote these human rights because countries and governments, like I said, they want to promote human rights and they want to trade goods and items with other countries that promote and reflect the same human rights ideology. Okay, we don't want to be trading with other countries that disrespect or don't respect human rights because it just doesn't make sense. So we often encourage human rights here in Canada and around the world and with other countries that we want to trade with as well. Okay, again, there will be a question on assignment 9 that says what is human rights or give examples of human rights. Okay. Questions at the moment, class? Any questions? Okay, yes, we started a brand new lesson, lesson number 4 today, where we'll be looking at human geography. We talked and explained the main factors of NAFTA and some of the controversy NAFTA brings up. We just talked about human rights. We talked about what the term trade surplus means. Okay, lots of definitions, lots of new terminology. Okay, don't feel overwhelmed. Okay, again, if something doesn't make sense, you can always ask me, and I will always try my best to rephrase it in another way. All of these definitions are in your textbook. Okay, so make sure you go back and read your textbooks as well. Okay. So if there's no question, let's go to assignment 9 and see some of those questions so that we have a good understanding as to what these questions means and how I want you to explain them. So assignment 9 class is out of 18 big marks. Not a huge assignment, but then again, not a big assignment. It's pretty straightforward. Like I stressed before, a lot of terminology, a lot of definitions. Okay, so let's look at question number 1. Question number 1 states, name the 3 main types of human geography. Okay, not just 1 or 2, but I'm looking for 3 main types of human geography. Okay, this is probably the very first slide that I talked about in today's lesson. There are 3 areas or main factors that impacts human geography. 3 main topics of human geography. We started looking at one today, which was economic geography. So that's 1 right there if you are listening. Hint, hint. Okay, so a mark for each one. Okay, question number 2. What is economic geography? Pretty straightforward. Out of 2 marks, okay? So again, give some examples, explain it, what it is. Again, I cannot stress this enough, but please, 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 please Always write in full, complete sentences. Okay, no jot notes. Okay, we're here to work on our writing skills as well as we're learning about history and geography. But again, full, complete sentences. You can start things off by saying economic geography is, or economic geography provides. Give some examples, da da da, etc. Okay? What is economic geography? Okay? Again, the more you write, the more you provide, the better mark you will receive. Again, do not just copy straight from the textbook. Again, that just demonstrates to me nothing. Okay? Again, just answer what's being asked. There's no need to provide other materials that's in your textbook. Okay? That's why I'm stressing. Write in your own words, summarize in your own words. Do not copy from the textbook. Okay, question number 3, class. What is a trade surplus? Again, talked about in today's class. A trade surplus is when a country has this, that, and this. Okay, more definition, no surprises. Okay, out of 2 marks, again, its goal, its purposes, what it means, and how it is important. Question number 4. Question number 4 on assignment 9 in your workbook. What does NAFTA stand for? Okay, don't just write down what it means. You can again, full complete sentences. So, NAFTA stands for, and then state what NAFTA stands for. Okay, full complete sentences if you want full marks. What does NAFTA stand for? When was it initiated or initialed? So I'm looking for a year or a date. And what countries are the parties to this agreement? So in other words, what countries are involved in NAFTA? Okay, I'm looking for 3 things. Okay, 1, what does NAFTA stand for? When was it signed? And what countries? There's 3 of them that are part of NAFTA. Okay, those are the 3 things I'm looking for in terms of question number 4. Do not give me any other details about NAFTA, because the question just asks what does NAFTA stands for, when was it signed, and what countries are involved. A mark for each one. Question number 5, moving along. Okay, and again, nothing big, nothing major in terms of this assignment. Why did these countries of NAFTA want this agreement? Okay, what are the benefits supposed to be? Okay, in other words, what is NAFTA designed to do? What is its purpose? Give some examples. Okay, we have talked about some examples in today's class. Feel free to use them. They're also in your textbook as well. Okay, why did these countries want this agreement? What were the benefits supposed to be? Okay, again, nothing new here. Nothing new here. Question number 6. New rule number 6. There have been many controversies. Oh, look at this. Many controversies. Circle that word. Since NAFTA agreement took into effect. Provide some details about 3 of these controversies. 3 controversies of NAFTA. Okay, so I'm looking for 3 examples. Okay, again, a mark for each of a controversy, of a dispute, at the bad side, the negative side of NAFTA. We have talked about lots today. Again, feel free to use them. There are the same examples in your textbook. There are even more examples in your textbook as well. But I'm just looking for 3 examples. Okay? Again, don't just copy that whole paragraph about controversies in this answer, because you will not receive any marks. Because I'm just basically reading a textbook, which that not demonstrate to me anything. Okay, but I'm just looking for three controversy on NAFTA. Three. And last question, last one on this assignment. Number 7. What are human rights? Pretty straightforward. Human rights are, human right is, human right does this. Give some examples of human rights. I have listed some. Okay, if you want, I can list some right now. Okay, human rights are examples of the right to earn free wages, the right to freedom, the right to move around a country, the right to have freedom of speech, the right to have your own religion or practice your own religion, the right to be protected from danger in society. Okay, that's what I'm looking for in terms of this question. Okay, simple, easy 2 marks. Human rights are this. Okay, again, class, if you have been listening, if you have been following along, there should be no problems or any difficulties in terms of any of your assignments. However, if you do have questions, or if you're stuck or don't know what some of these questions means, don't worry, I'm right here. Feel free to send me an email, call me, Facebook me. I'm here at my office every day. I'm here to help. Okay? Again, don't be discouraged. Don't be upset if you're stuck or something doesn't make sense. Remember that I'm only a phone call and email away. I'm here to help. Don't be discouraged. With that being said, again, please continue to work on these assignments, wherever stage you may be. You could be still be working on history assignments, or you may have be ahead of my lessons. Okay, but again, please continue to work on these assignments. Please send to me as soon as you can. That way I can mark it and give you feedback and let you know how you're doing. Okay. Next class. Well, hold on. Any questions before I wrap things up? Questions, comments? Feel free to shout them out. Write them on my screen. Type them. Okay. Questions. Okay. Next class on Thursday of this week. Our very last class before we wrap things up for the holidays. We'll be continue looking at human geography. Okay, we'll finish up looking at economics, geography. We'll move into the other 2 main areas and factors of human geography. Hint, hint, urbanism, and hint, hint, military. Okay, we're looking at those different types of industries as well, and other key facts and definitions that you will see. Okay, keep in mind, yes, we are now in the geography section of this course. But however, if you do have questions on history, always ask. Always ask. Don't be scared. I'm always here. Okay. Any last comment, questions, concerns before I wrap things up tonight? And you want to share? Okay. Again, this is PLAR History and Geography. Again, my name is Jonathan. I'm here in Sioux Lookout, Wassa. Okay. I'm gonna wrap them. Stop it right here for tonight, and I will see everyone again on Thursday. Thank you.